Wake Up Radio presents The Center with your host, DC Radical One.
Greetings, friends, family, allies, and enemies. This is your host, DC Radical One, and you have entered the center. Shout out to our wonderful producer, Cindy Ashby. You can check us out on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes, Podcast, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, and iHeartRadio on the Wake Up Radio. And I need to check to make sure it's still up. But there is a Black-owned social media called OTW2, and that's at otw2.com. That's otw2.com. If you all can hear me, can you please give me a 1 in the chat? I am using a different streaming service today, experimenting with Restream. So I just want to make sure things are working as they should be. And, we are very much experimenting. So if things don't go like they normally go, it's because we are experimenting. As I try to adjust the sound levels here. And let's see, do we have Tiggers? I guess they call it something else. I don't know what they call it, lower Tiggers. Let's see. So I didn't even think about that. We're going to add that as we move along. Ha ha ha. BB40 and Sister Najee. So the only person that's in the chat. Here's the reason why I'm doing this show. And it's available right now on YouTube and Instagram. So hopefully some people will come in through Instagram. The reason I'm doing this, I'm trying to do it in 2 hours or less. The reason I'm doing this is because we are entering a very dangerous time in the wake of the Charlie Kirk assassination. And I use the term assassination because I understand he's not considered a political figure, but it's very political what took place. BB48, pro BB48, Vincent Ali. And I believe, and I've heard other people say this now, but I believe that he was being set up to be one of the inheritors of the MAGA platform, right? So Trump is 70, however many, 75 or however old Trump is, right? I believe they were setting up Charlie Kirk to be the inheritor of that. Now I know you're gonna say, well, what about what's his name? What about JD Vance? Yeah, before they straight black pride, brother. That's it. JD Vance is obviously on the table, but Charlie Kirk's 31 years old. He was being financed to the tune of millions of dollars per year, right? And he was allowed to say anything he wanted to, derogatory about anyone, with the exception of Israel. Greetings to John Public. And this is where the story begins. Now, unfortunately, because I'm using a new streaming service, I will not be able to load up all the video today that I want to, but what I'm gonna end up doing more than likely is chopping up this stream if I accomplish what I want to accomplish and then adding the videos to those videos later, right? But what we have, besides my music going off, which is not part of the plan, let's try that again. Right, let's see. Okay, so we're gonna play this, and we're gonna loop the track. All right. Yeah. So what I want to accomplish is I want people who have not been following along and who don't understand what's really going on to see. I want to clarify for them the importance of what is taking place and the ramifications of it. So let's just be clear. Charlie Kirk was not a fan of black people, right? I don't think I'm saying anything shocking here, right? But that doesn't mean that his untimely passing will not affect us. If you live here in America, it'll affect you. If you have people, relatives here in America, but you've moved on somewhere else, it will affect them, right? How the struggle that is taking place at this exact moment, right? There is a struggle taking place to define the legacy of Charlie Kirk. For the vast majority of his life, or his public life, I'll say, right? From the time he became an activist, I believe at 18, till a few months ago, Charlie Kirk was a staunch supporter of everything that Israel did. Everything, right? Much in the same way of people before him, like Tucker Carlson, much like his friend, man, what is her name? That she's married to the white dude, Candace Owens, before they straight Black Pride brother Elijah. So much like these people, right? They come out of the same. In fact, I think they all kind of work together. I know Kirk and Candace Owens worked together at one time. They were all staunch supporters of Israel at one time. And in fact, it's so hilarious when I think about it, because the one thing that so-called conservatives and so-called liberals have agreed on in recent years is staunch support for Israel. Now, when did that begin to change? That began to change when the pictures of what was going on in Gaza took place, right? So you got a full-on massacre. Stuff was being streamed. People got to see it. And then once people got to see it, then it's like, oh, wait a minute. I didn't know this was like this. I don't know if I support this, right? And all of a sudden, people grew conscious because, of course, the liberal people who, try to say that they love everybody and so forth, so on, and the conservatives try to say they're Christian. Well, if you are these things that you claim, then watching people get slaughtered for no exact reason makes it difficult. Now, as far as Mr. Kirk goes, and like I said, hopefully I'll add the video later, he specifically questioned whether or not the October 7th situation was allowed to take place, right? He said he had been to Israel, and he said Israel's about the size of New Jersey, and he said the country is a fortress. You can't walk. I can't remember how many feet he said without running into a 19-year-old with I can't remember if he said an AK. I can't remember what type, but you can't without walking into a 19-year-old what they call an IDF soldier, fresh-faced IDF soldier with a semi-automatic machine gun, right? So he said that he questioned the official narrative because, and he said, was a stand down order given, meaning when it took place where somebody told, hey, don't worry about it, let what happened happen, right? Now, information, since he said that Samson option, was it the Samson option? No, not the Samson option. Anyway, whatever the code is in Israel to basically, if you're going to take out the terrorists, the civilians are collateral damage. So you can you do whatever you want, right? That information has come out. So some of the people that they claim were killed by Hamas were actually killed by IDF, right? So we questioned Charlie Kirk, questioned the official narrative publicly, right? Which means you are basically questioning Netanyahu, right? So that took place before his passing. Allegedly, he also turned down $150 million. Now, I say allegedly because no actual documentation has been put forth, right? But of course, in those type of deals, you don't exactly send text messages. You know what I'm saying? So, but according to some people who knew him, this took place, right? So, but I'm gonna say allegedly. I'm gonna just put it like this: people who can send you or guarantee the reception of $150 million do not take kindly to the word no, right? No, I'm gonna give a recent sports example of how people with a lot of money and some modicum of power, and again, this is a limited example, how they react when someone tells them no, right? So I guess earlier this month or last month or whatever, whenever, totally unrelated subject, but I'm just using it as an example. NFL superstar Micah Parsons and NFL owner Jerry Jones had a falling out. Now, allegedly, Jerry Jones claims that he offered Micah Parsons $200 million, right, on a contract. And allegedly they had an agreement, right? But Micah Parsons' agent wasn't involved. So the agent got involved in, whatever happened. And so the NFL owner gets mad and he ships off, in essence, his best player, right, to another team. They actually like a rival team, which makes it even crazier. So now that's $200 million, and that's the NFL and the sports, and it don't really matter. But my point is, if that person, random billionaire, can get mad, as they say, let his money get mad to the point where he ships off his best player to another team, then what makes us think that a Netanyahu would not take offense at being told no by someone like Charlie Kirk, who I'm going to assume other funders who happen to be Jewish have already given him money, right? Now, Netanyahu, let's be real about who Netanyahu is. Netanyahu has often told other presidents, including the president of the United States, what to do, right? So this guy, this young kid telling him no, I don't think he took kindly to that. And Charlie Kirk has said, though not publicly, which was a mistake. Let me just say it like this: if you think that you are about to be assassinated or you feel threatened by powerful people like the Mossad or the Nation of Israel, your best bet is to say it publicly. Is to name the names. That's your best bet. He didn't do that. He said it privately, and now he ain't breathing. Right? So now people like Max Blumenthal and some of his friends, and people like Candace Owens, who's on the crusade now. So just be honest. Once Candace Owens gets on the crusade, she's gonna do everything she can to find out the information, right? She's not gonna be scared. So if Candace Owens happens to fall down the steps in her own house and expire, we pretty much know Messiah did it. let's just keep, you know what I'm saying? Let's keep it a buck. I wish Brother You Got Ripped Off was in here. But Sister Najee, if you still in here, can you do me a favor and check to see if anyone is, well, number one, can you check to see if we're streaming through Instagram, and also let me know if anybody is over there, right? So we know that Charlie Kirk had a public falling out, well, a private falling out with Israel before his untimely demise. And now what is taking place is there is a fight between the group that he represents, which I will call white nationalists, you know, MAGA, the youth wing of MAGA and the rest of MAGA, and the Zionists, right? The supporters of Israel, actual Israeli citizens, dual citizens, so forth and so on. The battle that's taking place is for control of the Charlie Kirk legacy. Privately is for control of the United States of America. Now, someone here will say, well, brother, it doesn't matter to black people whether regular white people or so-called Jews rule, because they're both our enemies. Sante system. And while that would be correct historically, there's one problem. The rules of the game have changed. The people who believe that they are the chosen people have decided that they want to bleed America dry and destroy it and decrease the population of the planet Earth to a manageable state. Now, you were like, well, I mean, that don't really matter because either way, stop right there. Here's the problem with that assessment. We're still here for the most part in the Western Hemisphere. If I tell you the ship is sinking and you chain to the bottom of the boat, that's not good news. If I tell you the ship is sinking and you're on the other shore and you say, what kind of ship is it? And I say it's a slave ship, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Is anybody I know on the boat? If I say no, you're like, oh, I ain't worried about it. If you ask me anybody I know on the boat and I say your mama, your daddy, your grandpappy, your children, then we got a problem, right? And so, yeah, the ship is being sunk. And the ship started to be sunk on 9/11. In reality, that is the official time of the complete and total takeover of the United States of America by Zionists, right? And that attack was symbolic. Now, I've talked about this before. I believe it was a ritual to signal the fall of America and the rise in its place of a global Zionist empire. Now, like I said, that would not matter except for the fact that the global Zionist empire, because the people who represent that faction are so small in number, they have decided that they have to greatly decrease the population. Right? Now, we know now for a fact that the American population is decreasing. The population in Western Europe is decreasing. The population in China is decreasing. The population in Japan, they basically have an emergence, a crisis of depopulation. In fact, everywhere you look where people happened to have been mandated or pressured to take an experimental medical procedure also happen to be the places, coincidentally, where people are having trouble reproducing. Now, some of this was taking place before that, right? Some of this decrease in population. Because, for example, a place like China put in a one-child policy, right? Or it's either one or maybe two children or less, I can't remember. They implemented that, right? You know what we never asked? We never asked who told them to implement that? Who told them that was a good idea? Now, all of a sudden, the population is declining at a rapid rate. You have countries like Italy and Japan, basically, the population is growing old so fast that they can't reproduce. Like, they have whole towns that are being depopulated. Is one child. Thank you, brother. Right? And in addition to that, you have ideologies which are helping that depopulation. Feminism is an ideology that is helping depopulation because, according to many feminists now, being a mother and being married is being compared to enslavement. Well, where does the modern feminist ideology come from? I've put the information out before. Who is Bella Abzug? Who is Gloria Steinem? Who is Betty Ann Friedan? Well, all these people happen to be, for whatever reason, by sheer coincidence, all of these women who are at the head of the modern feminist movement starting in the late 60s with Betty Ann Friedan's book, all of these women happen to be Jewish, right? Happenstance. They help implement and popularize the movement that we now have in place, which has affected the lives and the minds of women, Western women here in the United States of America. Many of the younger women are affected by hip-hop icons, Cardi B, Nicki Minaj, City Girls, Mulatto. You can add your favorite artist to that list. Glorilla, Sexy Red, and so forth and so on. Who you vote a straight black private, Kevin? Who is in charge of the record labels that make sure that these people have what they need to make records and to make money and to go on tour and to be seen before the world and to be on your radio station and to be in your social media? The owners of the major record labels just happen to be Jewish. Sheer happenstance. So the people who came up with the modern feminist ideology are tangentially related to people who are pushing the feminism and the misandry through the music. Sheer happenstance, right? So that ideology is helping depopulation because black men and black women can't get along. Who controls the social media platforms where you see people, especially black men and black women, seemingly are arguing ad nauseum about whose fault it is that black families are falling apart. We know, I mean, Mr. Zuckerberg and these other people, right? I ain't got to say it. So that conflict between men and women in general, black men and black women in particular, is being propelled through social media. Every day you turn on, you see black men and black women arguing, can't get along, debating the same topics ad nauseum with no apparent end in sight and no capacity to agree on virtually anything. Right? So much so that this is even affected, it's not just affecting black people, it's affected whites. I can't even remember the chick's name now, but do y'all remember it was like a blonde white nationalist chick, and she basically came out and was talking about how lame men were and this and this and that, and then she received all this backlash and then she backed up from it. I just bring that up because it just goes to show it's affecting everybody, right? So why did so many Americans, we'll say, love Charlie Kirk? Because one thing I realized is I said, okay, he was put before the people as a representation of traditional America, the America that they wish still existed, right? So you could, I mean, with the exception of, like, if you change up his clothes and his haircut, right? You could march Charlie Kirk and his family straight out of the 1950s, right? Which is a time that, for people who are nostalgic for America, they think of that as like the peak of America. So post World War II, the creation of the middle class, the time where the national highway system is implemented, even though many black towns and neighborhoods and stuff are destroyed with that, but nobody cares. Where new technology starts to come into the home, so people start getting TVs and, telephones and radios, and all this stuff becomes standard, like everybody has it, and stoves and eventually dishwashers and so forth and so on. So we don't think of it that way as black people because it's like we have a different experience, but it's thought of by people as kind of like the peak of America, militarily, economically, in all the ways that you think of a nation being healthy, right? Because if you think about it, let them tell the 60s as a time of turmoil, which, I mean, it was, right? And it's interesting because when I was thinking about this yesterday, when I thought about this topic, I have now lived through several stages of America. And what's interesting is even though it isn't thought of this way, in many ways, as far as being, how can I put it? As far as on the international scene, from the outside, as far as how America dealt with outside nations, America was relatively stable in the 90s, right? But that Mr. Reagan is credited with that because of reaching out to Gorbachev and tear down this wall and all that, and helping to set the stage for the reunification of Europe, right? But if you look at the 90s from the inside, or even better yet, I'd say if you look at the 90s from the inside, you had, let's think about this. You had the Rodney King situation. You had a presidency where the president was accused of, actually, even before Clinton became president, he was accused of various illicit activities with women. I keep forgetting. When he was running for office, women were accusing him of, you name it, assault, philandering, all that stuff, right? Like, I think we tend to forget that stuff now. So when you look at the Epstein situation with Mr. Clinton being a part of it, right? It's no surprise because we were warned about him before he became president. But hey, it is what it is. Wow, like stuff we don't think about that was taking place. I always forget this about Clinton, but I like to bring this up. How many people have heard of Mena, Arkansas? If you heard of Mena, Arkansas, put a 1 in the chat. I don't know if I have talked about it. And if I have, it's been a long time. So y'all let me know. But anyway, Mr. Clinton comes into office, and he comes in as a new type of Democrat. And when he comes into office, he basically eventually ends up making deals with Republicans, right? To lower the deficit and cut government spending and all that stuff. Now, in my lifetime, up until the 90s, literally from the 40s to the 90s, if I'm not mistaken, Congress, the House, was Democratic from World War II to the 90s, for like 45 years. And then when Newt Gingrich came in and all this, they flipped it, right? So that's how they got Clinton to make these deals, which a lot of the stuff they thought would hurt black people. Now, mind you, black people had already been hurt, and Mr. Clinton was helping to hurt black people before, because I see Brother Crow's the only one that responded with knowing about Mena, Arkansas, because the illicit drug trade that the CIA was operating with and from bringing in drugs from Nicaragua, some of the drugs were being brought to an airfield in Mena, Arkansas, where Mr. Clinton was the governor of Arkansas. So if y'all want me to go into that history on another show, y'all let me know, right? Put a 1 in chat. I do have books on it. I have no idea where they are. I ain't gonna lie to you, but I have enough of the history from studying it before that I can put it in. So now, coincidentally, the guy who was allowing the CIA to bring drugs into America via airfields in his state would later become the president. I'm sure this is just a sheer coincidence, right? I'm just saying. Because the president at the time when this was taking place was Mr. Reagan, and I believe up to Mr. Bush 1, the first Bush, right? No one ever talks about this history. As far as I know, no one has ever asked Mr. Clinton about Mena, Arkansas. And what's interesting is there were 2 young white males who were found unalived and tied up in that place when Mr. Clinton was the president. So the reason I'm bringing all this history up is one of 2 things. One, I just want to remind people how corrupt the government has been just in my lifetime, right? We talk about, or at least we used to talk about, the drugs being brought into America and the CIA and all that. But we don't talk about it anymore as black people. White people never cared at the time, right? And I always find it interesting. Wow, now you got the fentanyl issue, and they're trying to figure out whose fault it is and who they can sue and this and this and that. But I'm thinking to myself, had you paid attention to our issue with the crack epidemic and the importing of low price cocaine, you would not be dealing with the issue that you have now, right? These things are interrelated. I always try to tell people, Black people are the canary in the coal mine. Things are tested on Black people first, and then other people follow along. So you're gonna say, all right, DC, cool, you give me all this history and everything, but yeah, get back to this Charlie Kirk thing. Like, what's the importance of that? So those of you who have been following me for a long time, you know, and if you've been listening to Brother Genie, you know what did Brother Genie said back in, I believe, 2022, right? Maybe 2023 at the latest. He said that there is, at the time, a conflict between the white nationalists and the Zionists, right? Well, it appeared that the conflict was solved because Mr. Trump, in his new term, just simply started bending over for Israel. And everything seemed, most of his followers, the MAGA people, whatever, seemed relatively cool with that until the Epstein files, right? Now, I've talked about it before. I've done shows on it. I'm not going to reiterate it. If you want to see it and you haven't seen it, just go back through the archives. Epstein was Mossad. Epstein was recruited by Ghislaine Maxwell's father. Epstein's money sources of how he became like a billionaire and had this property in Manhattan and all this stuff appear to come from very unusual sources. You know what I'm saying? Like, the process of him being kind of random guy to billionaire, it's been hard for people to unravel, right, Mr. Epstein? It's just, it is what it is, right? Once that took place, that, now you started to see the rift reopen, right? So that's when you started to see, even before that, you had people like, man, I can picture this guy's face, but I cannot think of his name right now. And his shows, he's not even on YouTube because his stuff is way too volatile. He's on Rumble. And Brother Genie, he watches them a lot. Now the guy's, he's anti-black as you can get, but he had put out a lot of information about the C-19 situation, and he has become staunchly anti-Israel lately. But he's a serious white nationalist. Brother Crow, you might know who I'm talking about. I guess if Brother you got ripped off, if he shows up, he might know. He'll definitely know who I'm talking about. But I can picture the dude. He's a funny looking European dude, but I cannot think of his name right now. What is his name? Well, anyway, if I can think of his name, because he did a show. He talked about U.S. liberty. He talked about, like I said, he talked about C-19. He was really banging the U.S. liberty drum. I'm trying to think what else did he talk about. But anyway, he's one of them, right? Brother Crow says, David Duke. Let me test this out. Let me see. David Duke is a great example of white national, right? I just want to see if that still works the same way. cannot. Oh, Stu Peters. That's the dude's name. Stu Peters. Like people like Stu Peters and eventually Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens. What's the little young dude? What's the little young dude? Little fruity white guy, young. And I can't think of his name either. Can't think of none of these people's names. But him. These guys and girls started to look at Israel through a different light, and they stopped being so loyal, and that whole Christian Zionist thing, they start, steer away from that, right? Now, Charlie Kirk, on the other hand, super staunch pro-Israel until he started questioning some things. And let me see if I even brought these up. Nick Fuentes, thank you. Nick Fuentes, little fruity guy, Nick Fuentes. But he occasionally says some things that are right. Let me see. Okay. Right? I was talking about Charlie Kirk being staunchly pro-Israel until he started to question some things, and then what happened? This says top pro-Israel Turning Point USA donor terminated support for Kirk in days before death, sources said. Now, why would he do that? Let's read the article. It says ultra-Zionist billionaire Robert Shillman, right, was one of Charlie Kirk's most committed donors. But as Kirk fell under attack for his increasingly critical Israel views during his final weeks, sources say Shillman ended his funding for Turning Point USA. As his campus tour approached, Kirk was subjected to an almost daily lobbying campaign from Netanyahu's allies. Now, here's what I want to say. I not really paying attention to Charlie Kirk, but having seen him, underestimated his influence in this country. I admit that. What's weird is I heard Nick Fuentes say the same thing, which I just found hilarious. I'm like, y'all in the same lane, sort of type of thing. That's what I'm thinking. So I'm like, how you underestimate? But that's what Nick Fuentes said. So whatever. This, because he was being funded, he was being funded to the point of millions of dollars, right? To build up his media wing, to have events across the country, to have conventions and so forth and so on. And one of the things that apparently took place was, and I'm not sure what they're going to talk about in this article, they started to question the people that he had around him. So not just what he was saying, but the people he had around him. They're like, hey man, wait a minute, look, we pay you because of your stance for us. That's why we're giving you this money. So you running out here publicly and questioning us on this stuff, nah, we can't have that, right? Now, the reason that he was so important to them is because, and subsequently also so dangerous, is because he literally, I'm talking about Charlie Kirk, had built up how can I call it? Well, he built a movement amongst young Europeans, right? To basically rebuild a youth, or well, not rebuild, but to build a youth wing of the MAGA movement, right? Now, this is what people have to understand. The MAGA movement in and of itself, if you remove Charlie Kirk, it dies with Trump. Just plain and simple. It would die with Trump. It would die a natural death, and they would have to come up with something else to unify that segment of society. right? Which, who knows what form that would take and stuff like that. So if you want to control the country, you built this person up, then the easy work is, okay, if we control him and he controls the youth, you control a large segment of the youth of America for 30, 40 years. Because remember, he's talking on college campuses. He's talking to people 18 to 20, 18 to 23, 17 to 23. I heard the guy from Redacted said that his sons looked up to Charlie Kirk. So they're teenagers. So we're talking about 14, 15-year-old boys looking up to this guy. He's only 31. His whole career is ahead of him. So that's his importance, right? Black people, we don't have any equivalent to this type of person. What's interesting is I was reading an article and they said the Democrats don't even have anyone equivalent to Charlie Kirk. Right? So literally, before he was put in the dirt, he was arguably the most influential young political activist in America. Like, see, as Black people, we don't think of it that way. We just see a dude with some clips and he arguing with people about LGBT and trans this and that and so forth, so on. And we look at it and we say, oh, okay. Because I'm telling you what I did. I would see the stuff, who is this dude? And he'd be arguing with some young people and making them look ridiculous. And then, sometimes I click on it, sometimes I don't, and then I move along, right? But as we saw, if you saw the video, and no, I didn't clip the video because, like I said, I'm working with a new platform. As we saw, they filled up a stadium of his supporters. I believe that stadium holds at least 60,000 people. And Brother Crow said that Epstein was technically a billionaire. He said, my bad. Brother K.W. Don said he wasn't technically a billionaire. Thomas Deputy's worth about 500 million. Okay, like you said. But at least 60,000 people for his funeral. And the President of the United States showed up. So, as much as Black people, we probably would dismiss him, just like, who cares about this dude? Hundreds of thousands and probably millions of people love this man. And that means that I believe the reason they loved him is because he was able to say the things that they think and they say around their dinner table or whatever the case may be. He was saying in public. 70,000, brother, thank you. Stadium holds 70,000 because they had Super Bowls there, right? If I'm not mistaken, they had at least one Super Bowl at that stadium in Arizona. Actually, I think they had 3, if I'm not mistaken. So, it's state-of-the-art, giant stadium. How many, let's be realistic, other than when Minister Farrakhan passes, what other Black people that are not celebrities are going to be able to have even 35,000 people show up to their funeral? I'll wait, y'all. Y'all can put in any names that you think that might possibly happen to in the comments. Right? So his influence is, or was, immense, way beyond anything that I had estimated. And that's what makes the time so dangerous. And that's why you have these two sides arguing about his legacy. And depending on which side wins will depend on what takes place after that. right? Brother KW Dawn says the fact that Charlie Kirk was being talked about as a potential POTUS or VP candidate shows that the American empire is not. Well, not what it shows is that it shows the total control that the Zionists have on America, because they built him up, and I believe, and I don't, I can't prove it. They built him up, and I believe they took him out. Now, I'm not the only person saying this. Colonel McGregor is saying it on channels. Candace Owens basically has said it. I don't know if Tucker Carlson has said it, but it's going around now that people are basically pointing the finger, to the point that Netanyahu basically was like, no, it wasn't us, which generally means it was probably them, right? So, what does that mean for black people? Well, the most important thing would be for us to step out of the way, right? No comments, man. I don't know. I haven't really paid attention. Like those type of answers, would be best. But here's the dangerous part, because right at this moment, right now, black people really don't have nothing to do with the Charlie Kirk thing at this moment right now. But the dangerous part is, depending on who takes over his legacy, all that anger and angst and frustration and hurt and pain can be redirected from where it's currently pointing. Because at this moment, it's currently pointing at Israel. Right? Even though people don't have no, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no evidence of Israel's involvement in this. But the information that I have said, about, like, for example, this article with him, like there's even talk about the $150 million that's going around. People trying to debunk that now, But people are looking at Israel as the probable cause of his death, right? The break and the break in the break in the relationship between his Israeli donors and himself. That's obvious. Like that's not even debatable. Like, everyone has said that, right? Everyone has said that. But the question becomes now, whose narrative on Charlie Kirk is going to win? If the current narrative of Israel had something to do with it, right? Because it now will lead eventually to, because let's understand something. Israel is an ethno state. In essence, the only people in Israel who are citizens are Jewish people. It's not like America, where you got people from, you got people from Italy, you got people from Germany, you got people from Ecuador, Nicaragua, you know what I'm saying, Uganda, and it's not like that. And people come to America and China and wherever else they come from, and they become Americans. And like, you have Chinese people whose family's been here since the late 1800s. You got Germans that have been here since the early 1900s, and so forth, right? Now, Israel's not like that. Jewish people, they're the citizens. Other people, they're actually, I don't know what they're, what they're legally what they are, what their definition is for those people. I'll say guest. How about that? That's how it works. So eventually, if people keep saying, well, I think Israel did it, I think Israel did it, I think Israel did it, eventually somebody will point out, well, when you say Israel, you're really saying the Jews did it, because that's the only people who are citizens in Israel. Jewish people control all the power there. They make all the decisions there. So if Israel did it, then somebody Jewish did it, or we hired someone to do it. If that becomes the actual narrative, and don't let some actual evidence be brought about, you're going to see an attack on those people like we've never seen in the United States of America. You've seen it in European countries, right? There are 109 places that those people have been attacked in and run out of. Last time I checked, for whatever reason. That's all I'm saying, for whatever reason, right? But that's never happened in America. See, here's one of the biggest misnomers, right? This is one of the biggest myths about America. The biggest myths, and I'm gonna just say lies, that's being told is that Jewish people were not welcomed in the South, and I guess what would you call it, the antebellum South. That Jewish people were somehow treated like black people. That's a lie. That's a complete and total lie. In fact, because the country was so Christian, in that area of the country was so Christian, they were treated as the chosen people. That's how you get Judah P. Benjamin, who Secretary of State for the Confederacy, and helped fund the Confederacy. In fact, Judah P. Benjamin not only helped fund the Confederacy, but he helped fund the Ku Klux Klan that rose up after the Confederacy was defeated. He went back to Europe somewhere, and they went over to him to ask him for money, and he helped fund the founding of the Ku Klux Klan. Right? Does that sound like somebody that's being persecuted? And of course, they always bring up the hanging of the gentleman in Atlanta, but he was guilty. You know, as Brother Jeannie said, he was the original Epstein. And y'all help me out with names, because I'm struggling with names tonight. But y'all know what I'm talking about. In fact, they made a play. It's a play on Broadway about them. Like they're trying to change the narrative. And in fact, I got it somewhere on my page. I think should be a short of Brother Jeannie and man, who is he being interviewed by? He's being interviewed by the fighter. Y'all help me out. And they're talking about that whole situation where the guy had killed Mary Fagan, little girl, and blamed the black guy. And the sheriff came in and said, "Oh, you hold up. The black guy didn't do it. It was this guy. It was this Jewish guy that owns the factory. He did it." And then the people said, "All right, cool. Thanks for telling us." And they came in, broke him out the jail, and hung the man for because he violated a child and killed him. And black people made songs about it. Blessed Mary Fagan, all of that. So that shows that episode of history, and I can't believe no one still has helped me out. But anyway, Jeannie was interviewing with Jake Shields. It was a clip from Jake Shields and Brother Jeannie. I still can't remember. I can't remember the pep out name. Leo Frank. Thank you, brother. Leo Frank. Thank you. Right. The Leo Frank case shows the danger of this time, right? In fact, it's a perfect example. It's a perfect example because Leo Frank committed a crime. All right. Leo Frank was caught. Leo Frank tried to blame the crime on black people. And for one of the rare times in American history, it didn't work. But after that, what happened? After that, they made a movie where black people, well, white people in blackface were running around and assaulting white women, and the white woman runs and falls off the cliff and all this stuff. Birth of a Nation, right? And we know who controls Hollywood, so I ain't gotta say nothing else. And then next thing you know, after watching Birth of a Nation, which they show in the White House at the time, the second rise of the Ku Klux Klan happens, and next thing you know, we having red summers and they run around lynching black people because Leo Frank got caught, and they wanted to change the narrative. That's how the ADL, Anti-Defamation League. That's how that started. So that's the only reason I'm even talking about the Charlie Kirk thing, because we've seen this before. Not just the political assassination. For black people, we know all about being assassinated politically. Martin Luther King was assassinated for his political views. Fred Hampton, Malcolm X. I believe Huey P. Newton. I don't believe the official story of Huey P. Newton's death. And y'all can name Patrice Lumumba. Like we can sit around, we can name untold numbers of people, black men who were politically assassinated. Right? George Jackson. Y'all help me out. Give me some more names. So we're certainly no stranger to political assassination. And in my estimation, Mr. Kirk's untimely demise was a political assassination because of his great influence, and the people who helped him build that influence feared him turning that influence against them. Because let's be realistic here. Let's think about this for a moment. If Charlie Kirk wakes up one day, or would have woken up one day, and said, you know what? I know I've been talking about this trans rights stuff and all this LGBT stuff, but I found out that the people behind that are Zionists. And the people behind feminism are Zionists. And the people who are in Israel aren't really the real Jews, they're Khazarians. And I found out that the Federal Reserve is not federal, nor does it have any reserve. And so forth and so on. Had he come out and said that and spread that information, and similar type of information, he could have turned a generation, maybe two, against of white Americans, right? Young, think about it. A generation of young white males could have been turned against Jewish people by this one man. And he would have begun to question the narrative. Now do we understand why he's not breathing? Right? Now do we understand the importance of who takes over his legacy? Because either one of three stories are going to be told from now on in his name. Story one, Charlie Kirk was a staunch supporter of Israel, and he loved Israel, and everything he said about black people and trans and this and that, all that remains the same. Nothing changes. Story two, Charlie Kirk was beginning to doubt his support for Israel. Or story three, Charlie Kirk was beginning to doubt his support for Israel, and they killed him for it. And this is just the latest because Mr. Lincoln, our President Kennedy, his brother Bobby, the USS Liberty, September 11th, and so forth and so on. All of that was done by these people. If that becomes the story that's told, it'll be one of the few times that black people can just somewhat relax. Because the angst, the hate, and the rage of young white America will be unleashed on Zionists. And the most important thing for us to be able to do is to say, we're not with the Zionists. We don't advocate that. We don't. Feminism is helping to destroy us. Some of this fentanyl stuff is in our communities, and now we're not with none of that stuff. That would be the most important thing for us to do. And when they come going buck wild because they're out of control and they're angry and they just want to attack anybody, it's going to be important for us to have some type of system in place where we can help redirect them in the proper direction. If you understand what I'm saying. You know, there ain't gonna be no talking that's gonna be redirected. We're gonna have to redirect them in a more convincing fashion. Because I'd be shocked if I just say that time is coming. And they've been saying it, right? The conservative people have been saying it. They're going to go through their time of mourning, but once they go through their time of mourning, they're going to be mad. And then that's when the rubber's going to meet the road. Are they going to be mad and you can send them in the right direction, or are they going to be mad and we're going to have some problems? That's the question at hand, right? So, Brother Crow says he believes Steve Coakley. Steve Coakley, Kwame Ture. Kwame Ture basically said he believed before he passed. He believed that the CIA gave him caused his cancer, induced his cancer. Bob Marley with the mysterious shoes. You know, I mean, it's a long list of black people have been politically assassinated. Now, somebody's going to ask, man, why in the world would they kill Bob Marley? Well, Bob Marley was one of the most influential people in the world at the time. And he was helping fund revolutionary movements in Africa. So, yeah, the Bob Marley. In fact, Brother Crow or Brother Kevin didn't. Let me make sure I'm not making up stuff. I don't know what country he's from. He may have been British, but didn't a white man admit that he helped assassinate Bob Marley? That he was the one that gave him the shoes, and that they had poisoned the shoes. Tell me I'm not making that up. I could have sworn I saw like a deathbed confession a few years ago. Y'all correct me if I'm wrong. But this situation, even though he's in the ground. And I don't think they did an autopsy on Kurt, which is kind of weird. But they did one on Martin Luther King, and they did one on Malcolm X. We know what happened to him, but they did one on him. I thought that was standard protocol. If somebody can tell me whether or not that's standard protocol, let me know. But this, in looking at this investigation, now that I'm paying attention, nothing about this investigation looks like it should. Things aren't adding up all of a sudden. But hey, y'all know me. I question everything, so I can be just, I ain't gonna lie. I can be wrong. I can be tripping. Y'all can say, DC, you tripping. There's nothing to see here. But I don't think we're going to get the full story. And I'm not the only person. I don't think we're going to get the full story on this one. But what I'm going to do now is I am going to take a small break, and I am going to load up a different Lost Tapes video for those who have not seen or are not familiar with the Lost Tapes. The Lost Tapes are a set of appearances by Brother Irritated Gene in and around the Baltimore, D.C. area from 2023 and 2024, where he talked about a lot of things that are going on now. Some of the things he talked about in advance. So I'm gonna load that up and take a break, and then I'll come back and I'll close this out, because like I said, I want to be done with this in 2 hours or less. So let me see if I can actually get this to work. Because I'm not gonna lie, everything here is different, and different platform, different functionality, different rules. So yeah, but all right.
Now, we're going to go and talk about AIPAC. What is AIPAC? The American Israel Public Affairs Committee. AIPAC. What does AIPAC do? AIPAC is the gangster with a whole lot of money that says, I'm going to buy you and pay you money, and you're going to make decisions that I want you to make. You're gonna do as I tell you, because I got my hands in your pockets. And they attached to people like Jeffrey Epstein, who take videos of the people that are supposed to be our representatives, and as they take those videos, they hold them hostage and say, vote as I tell you to vote. Do as I tell you to do.
Has anybody watched the videos of the kind of murder that they're doing to the Palestinians? Raise your hand if you've seen any of the videos. Raise them high so I can really see. Alright, so then y'all will know. People who haven't seen it, it's gonna sound like I'm exaggerating. I need you all to confirm what I'm saying is true, that the ones that have seen it. I'm black. I don't even like Arabs, to keep it real. I mean, I have a history as an African with the Arabs. I ain't gonna lie, man. Arab or no Arab, man, what they doing, it's men walking around. I ain't never seen that like that, to be real. They're holding their child, full body, and the body is jet black burnt, and it doesn't have a head. And he's like screaming and crying for his child. Who's seen the stuff that I'm talking about? So many things. They have children walking around with their face, half this part of their face is just hanging like to here. It's like, I can't describe it. It's like the face is off. And it's like one half of their face is there and the other half of their face not there, and the child is sitting there trying to, they can't scream because they don't have, you see burnt children, like they go in and burn them, and you go and they're showing the people there's just nothing, but you can tell us, you almost think it was like an animal, but you can see the features of a child. The kind of genocide, like they're playing games where they tell them, come here for food. And when they come here for food, they start picking them off and shooting them and killing them. But they're filming it. So if you get on the channels to see this stuff, it's so horrific. I'm trying to think. It will remind you, we've seen the lynchings of our ancestors, right? Without sanctuary. Imagine taking without sanctuary and actually seeing it while it's happening, while they're lynching somebody. But not just the one person in the picture, the whole book at the same time on the same day.
We looked in the past, 1972. I was born in 1973. I'm almost 50 years old. I'll be 50 in December. A year before I got here, they must have known I was coming. They said, let's get this thing out here now before you get here. They did what's called a Gay Rights Platform of 1972. This is just official document, sharing information. If you read, go look it up online for yourself. They're making it difficult to find. I don't know if people have been noticing this, but things that you used to could easily go and put it on the internet and find them, you can't find this stuff no more. I mean, there's a bunch of stuff you can't find. But I'm gonna bring your attention to just one. It's a bunch of stuff, all of it's aimed at children. Sex education for children, adoption, gay adoption of children. But there's one that's most important for what we're talking about today. And they break it down from the federal level and the state level. On the state level, they say every single state, they want laws repealing all laws governing the age of sexual consent. I'm gonna say that again. They want the repeal of all laws governing the age of sexual consent. Meaning a newborn baby, they want it to be legal to have sexual contact with a newborn baby. What year did I say? 1972. That's 51 years ago. Fast forward 21 years from then to 1993. In the interest of producing that result, they had right downtown, 30 minutes, not even 30 minutes, there's no traffic, go right up here East Capitol, go all the way up the road, you run right into it. They had the 1993 Gay Rights March on Washington. Let's see what that was about.
Check one.
Alright. Did y'all hear what they just said? Do I need to play that again? He said, no, play it again. He said, no, thank you. Alright, I want to do this again. They said, we're young, we're queer. We're going to do what? We're going to rule the world. Now remember, 21 years before that, what did they say that they wanted for children? Repeal all laws governing the age of sexual consent. They want to have sex with children and make it totally legalized. 21 years after they said that, they said, we're young, we're queer, we're going to rule the world. That was in 93. This is 30 years after that. So they've had 30 years to say we're queer, we're going to rule the world, which at that point they said, we haven't gotten to the point where we rule the world, because if they did, they wouldn't be saying that. They would say, we're young, we're queer, and we rule the world. They didn't say that. We're young, we're queer, we're going to rule the world and have it our way.
Something that's not talked about enough. Everybody needs to get a copy. We have them out here today. Get your packet. His name is J. Bart Klassen, MD, medical doctor. He worked directly with Anthony Fauci in '88, as far back as 1988. Thank you. And what he talks about, the title of his article
A peer-reviewed article, COVID-19 and illegal bioweapons activity and insiders' revelations. What does J. Bart Klassen say? I'll just read this one line here. Israel never signed the 1972 Biological and Toxin Weapons Convention, and the author provides evidence to indicate the Mossad, which is the Israeli CIA, using U.S. human and material assets in running a large genocidal bioweapons attack on the world. He has a peer-reviewed study where he shows the information as an insider working there that this whole pandemic was orchestrated by Jews as a massive culling and killing and murder of people on this planet.
All right. So, first of all right, y'all let me know if y'all can hear me. And I'm going to bring this up. Brother Dessalines says, look out for new hack created birth of a nation to give us blame. I'm going to tell you what's already taking place, brother. But that's very astute of you for us to be on the lookout. And yeah, I forgot my music. What's already taking place is that situation in, actually, I don't even know where it is, but the young Ukrainian woman who was assaulted and unalived by the black man who said that the government injected him with something and that would make him do that, right? Now, I'm not saying I believe his story or nothing like that. What I'm saying is that there is science that is currently available that can do that. I'm not saying that that's why he did it, but my point is that story is being propagated amongst white people now, and over and over and over and over. Now, the sister out on the West Coast in, I believe, Oakland, Nia, helped me out a couple of years ago, when a European male killed her for no known reason. He never said that something was controlling him or nothing like that. He just did it. He did it because he wanted to hurt some black people, right? Now I'm hearing that there's some other incident took place with some black man chopped up some white man with a machete or something. If anybody know anything about this story, because I just heard about it today, so I don't know anything about that. But my point is the narrative that's going to be put out, and that is being put out now, is this narrative on this rampant crime where black people just running around randomly attacking white people. And what I believe is just a couple of incidents that are happening, which always happen. Neil Wilson was in Oakland. Okay, thank you. There's a couple of incidents, and they're being repeated and pumped up to get white America to not focus on Israel's connection in the Charlie Kirk murder, but these black people are out of control. We need to do something about these black people. That's the play. It's already going on. Now, mind you, I warned us about this 3 years ago, as I think I said last week. But the propaganda is already out in force at this time. So what is the logical thing for us to do? The logical thing for us to do is to not really interact with Europeans like that. If you ain't near them, you can't, you know what I'm saying? You can't be blamed for what happened to them. I'm just saying. That's the plain old solution. Right? But that's what's taking place. I'm starting to hear more and more white people talk about that situation. Now, this was crazy. The woman, she's not even American. She's Ukrainian. The other situation, I don't know. I got to get some information on that. I don't know what that's about. But I see the narrative being spun. So, like I said, all the anger, the hurt, the frustration, and the despair, and all the stuff that those 70,000 people and the let's be real, the millions more like them, all of that is building up, and all of that's about to boil over, and all of that, and a lot of it is being pointed at Israel because of Candace Owens, and because of Tucker Carlson, and because of Nick Fuentes, and whoever else, right? Like, there's even other people who, they're not fingering Israel directly, but they're being asked, well, who do you think might do it? Right? Like Colonel McGregor and what's the guy's name? Not McCorder. What's the guy's name? I can't think of his name. But anyway, and they like, well, who you think could do it? And they basically like, well, I mean, Israel has a capability to do it, and they have a reason why they might want to do it. So literally, white America is being pointed at Israel, and thus Jewish people, although all of these people that I have named and others have all said, it's not all Jewish people, right? They always be sure to say that, right? Or they'll say, what else will they say? Not all Jewish people agree with Israel, or something to that effect. And that may be true. I ain't no survey. But my point being, right, all of that anger, all of that hatred, all of that is either going to go in that direction, or it's going to be pointed at us for some random crimes that we may or may not have committed. Because let's be real, if you live in the hood, you know crime is real. Crime happens. But here's the reality of the situation. Most crime in America is intra, I-N-T-R-A, racial, meaning black people robbing black people, white people robbing white people killing white people sexually violating white people, and the same for black people. Most of it is between races. Hispanics, unalive Hispanics, right? I used to work in a hospital. You know, weirdly enough, the full moon thing is real. A full moon and a Friday at a hospital. If you work at night, I hope you got some rest that day, because you're gonna see some stuff. I've seen the aftermath of fights between groups of Hispanics, and they been up there trying to cut each other up and chop each other up, and then they come in strolling, bleeding all over the place and whatnot. They weren't attacked by no black people or no white people. Seen the same with black people, seen the same with white people. It's usually between the races, but that's not the narrative that's given, right? The narrative is given, especially to white people, the narrative that's being given at this time is black crime is out of control. If black people are running around chopping up white people, I mean, think about it. Even when remember the barbecue thing, when they pumped that up and talking about Haitians was eating people's, what were they saying? Eating people's pets and all this old wild stuff, right? So the narrative, the modern birth of a nation is already taking place, and stuff that's taking place through media manipulation, is taking place through social media manipulation, because again, the algorithms that they have, we don't see. The algorithms that we have, they don't see. So when a brother is lynched in Mississippi or North Carolina or Georgia, or when sisters go missing in Cleveland, Ohio, right? Or Houston, Texas, right? They don't see that. But we see it, we talk about it. And then the stuff that they be talking about, we don't see, which allows both sides to be manipulated. And let's be honest, white people have been hating us for so long that it's just, at this point, it's just a natural reaction. We ain't got to do nothing to them. Just be honest, we got to do nothing to them. Like if we were keeping score and being real, right? This is the part they never want to admit. If we took and kept a scorecard of all the things that whites in America have done to blacks in America, and then all the things that blacks in America have done to whites in America, man, please. You gotta be, it'd be totally out of balance. And when you bring that up, what you see white people all of a sudden start talking about when their ancestors came here. Well, my ancestors weren't here during slavery. You know what I'm saying? They take it beyond the I wasn't born during slavery. They take it to the ancestors when they here during slavery. Well, okay, well then we ain't got nothing to talk about then. When it comes to like discussions like reparations, you shouldn't have an opinion because you weren't here. You're not American enough to have an opinion on this discussion, in my humble opinion, because you weren't here. So why are you opposing something that took place before you were here? You have no say so in the matter. But they always got an opinion on that part. I think I've said it publicly. If I haven't said it publicly, I'm gonna say it publicly now. In my opinion, I truly believe that the last card that will be played, if things get desperate and if white America begins to attack Jewish people, they will. And I don't know who will be the president. I don't know how the mechanism will work. Some type of way they will get legislation passed that will give black people reparations. They will sink the economy because of that. And they will blame the economic destruction of America on black people because we got reparations. That's the last card that they have to play. You can take it, you can clip it, you can hold me to it. I don't have no time frame on it. My time frame is if they come under attack, that's the last card they'll play. And reparations will be used as a weapon against black people. Even though they will be the ones who sink the economy in that case. You heard it here first. This ain't the first time. I've said this in private discussion. I don't know if I said it publicly. If any, Brother Crow or Desaline or whoever, if y'all heard me say this before, let me know. But let me get back to this article real quick. I did want to at least finish one of the articles. It said, hold on. Let me see what it says. It says, the Turning Point USA campus in Phoenix, Arizona is the house that Charlie Kirk built, consisting of 6 sterile 2-floor office buildings. The campus is itself a tribute to the ultra-wealthy donors who placed the 31-year-old Kirk at the helm of a political empire whose combined annual assets, exceeded the municipal budget of a typical small American city. Not town, but city. At the front of the TPUSA complex is the Bill and Rebecca Dunn Freedom Center, named for the late commodities trader Bill Dunn. Adjacent buildings feature plaques commemorating the mega donors who fueled the rise of the conservative movement, from the Uline family to the Koch brothers to the evangelical Christian asset manager Foster Friess. Catty corner from the Freedom Center is the Pearson Building. According to a TPUSA insider, this structure was to be emblazoned with the name of one of Kirk's largest and most committed backers, the tech mogul Robert Shulman, a preeminent funder of right-wing Zionist and anti-Muslim causes across the Atlantic. Shulman's millions helped transform Kirk from a young age into one of Israel's most effective Gentile assets. However, as Kirk drifted from the official Netanyahu enforced line on Israel in the past year, expressing frustration with the onerous demands from Zionist donors and hosting the leading conservative critics of Israel at his TPUSA events, Shulman apparently grew resentful. A TPUSA insider has told the Gray Zone that Shulman recently canceled plans to erect a plaque bearing his name inside the conservative organization's office complex. Those who contribute $1 million or more to Turning Point USA become eligible for an honorary plaque. But Shulman's donations were said to be considerably higher. Few donors have done more than Shulman to fuel the influence of the Zionist movement's anti-Muslim, pro-Likud wing inside the U.S. With his pen and a checkbook, I provide ammunition, the billionaire proclaimed during a gala of the right-wing Zionist Organization of America in 2021. And this says, this gentleman, Robert Shulman, directly funded Tommy Robinson. Here he is being honored at the Zionist Organization of America, comparing his pen to a weapon. He also funded the Friends of the IDF, and organizations that build illegal settlements in the West Bank. Besides nurturing the career of Kirk, Shulman has sponsored the David Horowitz Freedom Center, named for the neocon operative who Kirk described as his mentor. Okay, I didn't know that he considered David Horowitz his mentor. All right. Anti-Islam activists from Frank Gaffney to the English hooligan Tommy Robinson to Dutch politician Geert Wilders and Canada's rebel media have benefited from Shulman's support as well. Shulman has also invested substantially in the career of Laura Loomer, a former rebel media personality and fanatically anti-Palestinian provocateur who enjoys direct access to Trump and members of his inner circle, shaping personnel and policy decisions while lashing out at insufficiently pro-Israel staffers. Interesting. Weeks before TPUSA founders killing, Loomer blasted Kirk for his inconsistent support of Israel. She was especially piqued by Kirk's platforming of Tucker Carlson, whom she branded as an uppity, waspy snob who serves as a mouthpiece for Iran and Qatar. Wow. Okay. Charlie speaks out of both sides of his mouth. His messaging is all over the place, and some of us want to know where he stands. Loomer tweeted on July 12, 2025. She went on to call Kirk a political opportunist and a charlatan who started hosting Dave Smith, an anti-Zionist podcaster and comedian, at a TP USA event. If I'm not mistaken, I believe this Dave Smith is also Jewish. Jewish comedian, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, if I got the right person. Loomer did not deny Shulman had cut off funding to TP USA, pleading ignorance in response to a direct question from this reporter about a long-term benefactor's decision. The Gray Zone was informed that Shulman announced his termination of contributions to TP USA during a private dinner of another organization he funds, the American Freedom Alliance. According to an attendee of the event, which was held in Los Angeles on September 6th, Shulman stated that he would be ending his donations to Kirk, diverting them instead to reliably pro-Likud anti-Islam groups like AFA. The AFA's homepage is currently promoting a $250,000 matching fund donation from an unnamed donor directly below a tribute to Kirk. A photo shows Kirk speaking from the days of a past AFA event. The tribute links to a eulogy which blames the left's consistent drumbeat of hate and misrepresentation of fomenting violence against us for the TP USA founders' death. Let me stop right here. I'm speaking to Charlie Kirk's supporters right now. If any of you all happen to come across this video and you last this long, your hero, Charlie Kirk, was unfortunately a willing slave of the Zionist cabal. And when he dared question that and tried to unleash the shackles of that enslavement, we see the result. There's no way that you can receive hundreds of millions of dollars from people and not be in their pocket and not be enslaved by them. Right? And these people happen, they very much like the mafia in the way that they work. So the idea that Charlie Kirk was this, in the end, maybe at the beginning, but in the end, the idea that he was this American hero who was America first and a staunch Christian, and we have to be real here. Slave of the Zionists. And you all are learning a lesson that Black people learned a long time ago. The price of freedom, as Malcolm X said, the price of freedom is death. If you want your country back from the clutches of the Israel lobby, you're going to have to take it by force. Black people are not your biggest problem. I don't care how much crime you think is going on. Black people didn't kill Charlie Kirk. I can tell you that much. I know that for a fact. You know it for a fact. We didn't pay nobody to do it. We didn't do it. We didn't care enough about him to get violent with him. We had no, it doesn't benefit us that he's not here. Right? Because, there were plenty of other people who were racist who would say bad stuff about Black people. Like, there's a long line of that. His demise doesn't benefit us in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Right? But you all loved him for your reasons, and I don't begrudge you that. But if you want to this nation to be free from the enslavement that he volunteered for by taking hundreds of millions of dollars in donations, you're going to have to deal with Israel. Israel is not America's greatest ally. Israel is America's internal enemy. And y'all going to have to rectify that situation. Right? You're going to have to accept that reality. You're going to have to accept the reality that the whole mythology of these people being the chosen people is a lie. These Polish people and these Khazarians and these other Central Europe and Eastern European people who are now living in Israel are not the biblical Israelites or the biblical Hebrews. They are not. They are those who say they are Jews and are not the synagogue of Satan. The synagogue of Satan rules America. I mean, I don't know if this one get monetized or demonetized, but I'm just putting it on the table. I'm telling y'all the truth. As an outside observer, right? You're gonna have to do something about that synagogue of Satan that's ruling. If they will kill, as popular as he was, if they will kill Charlie Kirk, and as I saw Colonel McGregor say, he said that was just a warning shot to the president. And I've heard other people say that the president is scared of Netanyahu, which I was shocked when I heard that. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but somebody put it out in the atmosphere. I was like, what? If they will blackmail your politicians, if they will pay off your politicians, if they will take shots at the president, if they will kill off Charlie Kirk, what don't you think these people will do? When are you going to wake up and be real Americans and deal with your problem? You have a synagogue of Satan problem. I challenge white America to accept the reality of the overthrow of the republic and to do something about it to restore it to its proper place as you see it. Which means you ain't gonna have to, somebody gonna have to get their hands dirty. You're not gonna be able to free America from AIPAC with money. Hey, y'all know what it is. Think of it this way. The way y'all get when you get mad at black people, and the things y'all do when you get mad at black people, and the actions y'all take when you get mad at black people, just rearrange that, take that energy, and implement it on the synagogue of Satan. That's all I'm saying. I know they make black people the face of, for example, as an example, they make black people the face of LGBT, but let's be realistic. What did Brother Crew, what would you say? Can I find that? Because you said earlier, Brother Crew? Was it Brother Crew? Yeah. Let's not forget, family, Israel is the most homophile place on the planet, and these devils claim to be the chosen people. The official flag of the Jewish Autonomous Oblast in Russia, which was carved out for them, their official flag is the rainbow flag, is just set against a white background. Look up Jewish Autonomous Oblast if it's still, that information still available. That's their flag. That is the flag of the Jewish Autonomous Oblast, the rainbow flag. Now, what I guess starting last year, I've seen the mixture of the two flags. So I've seen the star, the quote unquote Star of David, interposed on top of the rainbow flag. I didn't put it there. But for those who claim to be Christian, should the chosen people also be the people who are pushing homophilia, transgenderism? Should that be a place where they protect pedophiles? Should that be the place where it's in their holy book that they can lie to Christians? In the Babylonian Talmud, they say that Jesus, the son of Mary, is boiling in excrement. That's not no black people's holy book. Black people don't say that. That's in the Babylonian Talmud. That a grown man can be with a 3-year-old girl is in the Babylonian Talmud. These are the things that are in their religious text of those people who believe in that book. What do you want me to say? And those are the people who are controlling this nation. Rabbi Shmuley has a company where he sells adult toys. Right? And he's the one that when somebody comes out and gets out of hand and says something quote unquote anti-Semitic, they send Rabbi Shmuley to go talk to him. But he and his daughter, I believe his daughter owns part of the company. They sell adult toys. But these are the chosen people, allegedly. These are the people in control of America. These are the people who paying off your officials or blackmailing your officials. Right? Yep. That's right, brother. So the synagogue of Satan has taken over. And they wrecking shop. And they publicly state that they want to destroy America. And I saw a clip with Netanyahu. It's an old clip. Netanyahu talking about America is easily moved. Now he was speaking Yiddish. At least I think it was Yiddish. Maybe it was supposed to be Hebrew. But either way, he wasn't speaking English, but it was translated. And he said America's easy to move. And he was talking about Clinton and that. This was some different clip. It's 30 years ago or something. They've been making a move on your country since the unfortunate demise of President Kennedy, John Fitzgerald, who I call the last real American president. Because John Fitzgerald Kennedy opposed Israel having nuclear weapons, among other things. Like he just didn't like Israel. Even before he was president, he wrote letters to his father. So I just want to put that on the table, man. This is where we are. I made this video in this live stream as much for non-black people as black people. I just wanted to let black people know what's going on and what to look out for. But the ball is in white America's court. The synagogue of Satan, in my humble opinion, has something to do with the demise of your hero and future political leader, Charlie Kirk. And they're building a narrative to help divide this nation and rip it in half and cause a second civil war by saying that the leftists created the atmosphere for Charlie Kirk's assassination. And then saying that this young dude who apparently some type of weirdo with a furry trans partner thing, whatever that narrative is. They saying he did it by himself. Which the story ain't adding up, let's just be honest. And I saw somebody say they believe that they did the job sloppy just to show people that even if we show you, you ain't gonna do nothing about it. Right? So tomorrow at 6 we'll be back on, and tomorrow's discussion is a big SBO talk. Be myself, and I believe Sister Najee. Sister Najee, if you still here, let me know you still here. And we're going to talk about tomorrow's show is First One to the Womb is the winner. So we're going to talk about mate selection and the things that affected it. Yeah, I know I've talked about it before, and I'm talking about it again because it's so important. Because let's be honest, if black people come under attack, we're gonna have to up our reproduction to maintain our population, at least here in America. Right? We're in the midst of a war. I'm talking about it really a war strategy in reality. Just being completely honest. We're being warred upon. You know what I'm saying? We're not at war. The war is just being waged against us. We're not responding properly. But let's be clear. The war is being waged against America. And America is not responding properly. I mean, the political system, the economic system, with the Federal Reserve, the political system with APAC, the media, right? So forth, the medical industry, so forth and so on, all of it under control of the synagogue of Satan. And America has yet to identify the problem and to fight back. So I challenge white America to do something about the synagogue of Satan. That's my challenge. You like, who am I to challenge you, man? I ain't nobody. I'm a black man with a computer and a microphone who's out observing the collapse of the country he was born in by an internal enemy that has done its best to remain unseen, but I got to point him out because I can see him. Right? So Sister Najee, you will you be here tomorrow? I mean, not here, but you know what I'm saying. You be available for SBL talk tomorrow? Let me know. And I'll just say this, man. Sister Najee has enhanced that show a lot, in my humble opinion. So I thank her for accepting the task of making the show better. Again, I'm your host, DC Radical One. You can follow me on Instagram at dc.radical1, on Twitter at dc_radical_ONE, on OTW2 at dcradical1. And if you have found value in the discussion that we have had, you can donate via Cashapp, $DC Radical1. Also, if you would like to purchase the Lost tapes, you can email me at dc.radical_1@protonmail.com. So, with that, brothers and sisters, friends and foes, enemies, and people who don't think anything about me, I say to you, BB for ODA and straight black pride.
Thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also follow us on our other social media platforms. On Instagram, we're at dc.radical1. On Twitter, we're at dc_radical_ONE. And the Cash App is $DC Radical1. Again, thank you for subscribing. I'll be before ODA and and straight black pride.